Welcome into the Inside Indiana podcast. This is Ken Bikoff along with Inside Indiana publisher Ed Magoni. And Ed, the Hoosiers continue to work throughout their preseason camp. They prepare for their September 3rd game against Ball State. You know, this is a team that we've had a chance to watch a little bit now at the start of practice. We're going to get a chance to watch them here Thursday night in a scrimmage. But just from what you're picking up from the players, what you've seen in practice, your thoughts on what you've seen?
Well, I think the mood around the team seems improved over the last couple of seasons. I think there's more of an expectation to win this season, just because the coaches are breeding that type of atmosphere. I think there's a little bit more bounce in everyone's step, a little bit more excitement, a little harder hitting, a little more pad popping out there on the practice field. It just seems everything's crisper and more of it being done with a sense more of urgency. I think the quarterback situation is finally starting to work itself out a little bit. I think the defense is going to be improved. The offensive line is still kind of a question mark. We'll have to see how well they can protect the passer and open running lanes for the running backs. But I think we're going to see a lot of young talent coming to the forefront of the team. I think there's not going to be not a whole lot of redshirting going on, or necessarily mandatory redshirting, kind of like what Bill Lynch did. I mean, he only usually started 2 or 3, or only played 2 or 3 true freshmen. I think that's going to be a big difference this year. You're going to see whoever is the best player out there play, and I think that's that added competition and a sense of every job is up for battle has really improved the overall mental standpoint and competition, and has led to more improvement on the field.
Well, I think what's really interesting with watching from the transition to Terry Hepner to how Bill Lynch ran things to Kevin Wilson, I could distinctly remember Terry Hepner saying at Big Ten Media Day in his first year that the only red shirts they were going to have were the ones that they wore on Saturday. And he stuck to that because if I recall, it was at least 7 true freshmen were playing at one point, including guys like Roger Saffold and Pete Saxon, and that actually might have been 2006. But the bottom line is he was willing to play guys right away. What Bill Lynch was doing was trying to set a foundation going forward to where, as you have at a lot of successful programs, guys redshirt for a year, they get their feet wet, they get stronger, and then they go into the lineup before their clock's going. Kevin Wilson seems to be going more with Terry Hepner's plan. I think it's kind of interesting to see the different styles with that, but now the question that I think, Ed, is we have to see if just how those different styles are going to pay off.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I know for a fact, and as you do as well, that the running back situation is going to be mostly youth. I mean, it's going to be Steven Houston, who's a newcomer, Matt Perez, who's a redshirt freshman, and D'Angelo Roberts are the top 3 backs right now, and not a one of them has played a single snap of Big Ten football. So that's a wide variation based on what we saw last year when Trey Burgess took over for Darius Willis after Willis was injured, and Burgess probably wasn't the most talented guy on the roster, but he still got the nod because he was a senior and they didn't want to waste a red shirt of anyone. Plus, he had a lot of injuries, but it's just a completely different mindset. And I think the fact that everyone is battling for their position, no one's set in stone. I mean, certainly there are guys who've already won their jobs like Jeff Thomas and Leon Beckham and people like that. But certainly the fact that the competition is still ongoing for many of these spots and on the 2 deep as well, I think that just leads to a bit more improvement and keeps guys sharper. And I think it's going to pay off in the season.
Another thing that I find interesting out at those practices is the fact that they play music. Now, this might seem like a minor thing to people. They have a golf cart, and they have some giant speakers, and they play music. They play a little rap, a little country, a little rock. But what it does is it livens the atmosphere a little bit. And I can tell you from being out at past practices that there are times, especially at this point in camp, where we'd be watching practice and you'd have the offensive linemen in Mellencamp Fieldhouse working, and you might have the quarterbacks over in one corner and that. But we would look at each other and go, wow, this is kind of a dead practice field. And you couldn't blame them. I mean, it was really hot, as camps always are. But just the fact that there's that music there, you could see a little bit of the step. Even the players that might be a little bit bored with the going through the drills, it seems that they have a little bit more of a hop in their step. And it seems to me that might be creating an atmosphere that gets a little bit better work done and keeps everybody involved a little bit more.
Oh, I definitely think that's the case. Like I said, I just think that there's a different atmosphere at the camp this season. I think it's a little bit more motivated. It just seems like the competition is higher, the intensity is higher. It's a complete overhaul from last season. You see guys goofing off occasionally or loafing around, kind of just jogging from drill to drill. That's all gone. I mean, people are hustling, and if you aren't hustling, then Kevin Wilson's on you. I mean, it's that simple. And I think that's, like I said, I just think that's really going to pay off come September.
Now, certainly you talked a little bit about there just being this overhaul. The defense has an overhaul that's going on, and you have a lot of new bodies, a lot of new faces in the secondary. You have some questions on the defensive line. Not questions, just some shifting in positions, and people who are going to hold down defensive end positions. Certainly the safeties, the cornerback, all of that is involved. But Kevin Wilson repeatedly talks about how the defense has made strides, how he's happy with the way the defense has come along, and I've talked to him about whether his offensive background leaves him more critical of the offense than maybe the defense. But the bottom line is, even when we talked to co-defensive coordinator Doug Mallory, he said that the defense really has been coming along, and overall he's pleased with how the defense has played so far.
Came out of Saturday's scrimmage. Saw some good things. Saw a lot of things that need to get improved on. I think with the first defense, not for the most part, the first half played pretty well. Didn't execute real well there in the 2-minute situation there at the end of the half. Second half felt like we got a little bit tired, a little bit worn down there, and wasn't necessarily pleased with the effort in the second half. But I think overall, I think it's been a very productive camp. I think we're doing some good things. I think we've shown a lot of improvement. We got to eventually get our legs back and start focusing in on here in the season.
Now, Coach Mal also talked a little bit about how guys are taking lessons that they learned from the team room and moving it over onto the field and applying those lessons a little bit quicker, not maybe quicker than he expected, but they're doing a good job of being able to take what they learn and take it to the field. And Ed, how important is just that portion of the program?
I think it's huge, especially because we've seen for several seasons now where guys would go, particularly on defense, the start of the season, you expect the guys to get better and learn and be able to apply what they made mistakes in the last game and move forward and make, changes and improvements. We never really saw that happen. We never saw it really come to fruition. I mean, it was always a matter of, Indiana seemed to be as good as they were at the beginning of the season. They never got any better. And I think that's going to be a key this season, is that this coaching staff can really break down film with these guys, show them what they're doing wrong, and then apply it on the field in the practice form, and then moving on to the game forward. And I think that is going to be a big difference this season. I think Indiana's going to start out, they're going to have their normal growing pains at the beginning. But I think by season's end, they're going to show steady improvement each game, where we haven't seen that in a couple of years.
Yeah, no question. It's going to be interesting to see how those guys are able to develop. And certainly, like I said earlier, we're going to be able to get a chance to watch a scrimmage that is it's a close scrimmage. So the fans aren't going to be able to come out to it, but we're going to have all the information that we have that we can get to you about what happened in that scrimmage when it comes to our coverage going over into the weekend. Be sure to check back with InsideIndiana.com for all of that information. Well, Ed, the current Hoosiers continue to work outside Memorial Stadium as they prepare for their September 3rd game against Ball State, but former Hoosiers continue to try to make an NFL roster and be a part of playing football on Sunday, and two of those former Hoosiers, wide receivers Tandon Doss and James Hardy, are with the Baltimore Ravens. And I'd like to bring in right now Mike Wilkening from Pro Football Weekly, who has been covering the Baltimore Ravens for years. Mike, how you doing?
Good, Ken. How are you doing today?
Doing real good, real good. I just wanted to ask you real quickly about Doss and Hardy. I know Hardy's been fighting some injury issues, but what are kind of the chances for both of those guys making the team, and what kind of preseasons have they had?
Well, I think Tanner Doss has had the better preseason because he's been, healthy and has been, played in both preseason games. Started off well from all accounts. And is in the mix to earn a reserve role, maybe as high as the third receiver spot. I think what sort of works against him, again, is inexperience, and the fact that when they added Lee Evans, he immediately went into the starting lineup, you figure, and then what that does is it knocks Torrey Smith down, who was a second-round pick, Doss being a fourth-rounder, so it knocks Torrey Smith down into the competition, for a little less playing time, and David Reed, who's a second-year guy at Utah, who they really like, who's a very good special teams guy, one of the emerging star returners in the league, is also going to be in the mix to play a little bit more on offense this year. So that's kind of what Tanner Doss faces, but again, he's going to be part of the plans this year. Again, how much he plays really remains to be seen, but he's a guy that has a future, I think, in Baltimore. From all accounts, they were happy to get him in round 4. And I think all things considered, he's probably given himself a pretty good account of himself to this point here in camp.
Could he be a guy that works into the mix a little bit on special teams? Because I know he has experience returning punts and kicks.
Well, the thing about Baltimore at this point is that they've got a very good kickoff returner in David Reed. They've got Ladarius Webb, among others, sort of on punts. That is something he can do, and I think that is something that it's always an asset, as you know, having covered the league for as long as you have. Guys that make teams that aren't starters, the way you're active, on game day is to be able to contribute on special teams. And a guy that can go back there, catch a punt or catch a kickoff, and cover kicks most, sort of importantly here, I think are the type of guys that can help themselves. So, yeah, that's another asset in his favor. And, again, I think all things considered that they were happy to get him where they got him. And this is a team that, when you look at them from a roster perspective, has gotten younger receiver and I think is generally trying to get younger on the offensive side of the ball. So he's a guy that, maybe it's not this year where he puts up the type of numbers that, that IU fans are sort of accustomed to, or is not a bigger role in the offense. But I think when it comes down to it, he's a guy that's going to have an opportunity to build a future here with the Ravens.
Now, like I said earlier, James Hardy's been battling some hamstring issues. Is he a guy, though, that could be, because he is a red zone target, he's 6'5", he's somebody that can make some plays in the end zone. When he gets healthy, is he somebody that they could look to playing that role, or is this kind of a situation where as he gets healthy, he's going to be let go?
Well, it's just been a situation where he hasn't been able to get healthy. The hamstring's been an issue, and it was active in the second preseason game, but wasn't a guy that was targeted in the passing game. Which I think all things considered, considering how long the offense played and all those things, probably wasn't the greatest sign. But on the other hand, he is a guy that has fought the hamstring. So sort of what you're sort of hearing about from him is sort of him trying to come over that injury. And again, I think there's a sense as to that people know what the strengths of James Hardy are, and I think that you mentioned the red zone, you mentioned that ability. I think that's something that would be his calling card. If you wanted to keep a sixth receiver that was a big receiver that you thought could have some value in special packages, that's the type of thing maybe you'd look for that could help him. But as it stands right now, I think the Ravens have 5 guys that are going to make the roster for sure. Both rookies are going to make it. Doss is going to make it. Torrey Smith is going to make it. David Reed will make it for special teams. And certainly Bolden and Lee Evans, the starters, are going to make it. So how many receivers will they keep? Hard to say. Some teams keep 6. It's something where it really remains to be seen for him. I think even if it doesn't work out in Baltimore, and again, the injury certainly hasn't helped his cause, you would say, what the key for James Hardy is going to be is to get healthy and to find someone that is a team that is willing to take a chance on him with regards to developing the skills that he showed in Indiana, the skill set that Buffalo obviously was enamored of to take him in round 2 a number of years back, and to see if he can develop and sort of, live up to that potential that he showed. It's been a little bit disappointing to this point, but again, some of that's injury, some of that just is frankly bad luck. And again, you feel for a young guy that is trying, obviously, to do the right things and to try to make it in the league and to have injuries like this. So I think it's a health thing first and foremost. If he can get healthy, stay healthy, and sort of show what he can do, that's the way James Hardy can maybe find a role in this league. But to this point, again, being hurt here in camp, probably hasn't helped his cause to make this team.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I know you're busy with camp starting up. And, folks, if you're looking for the best coverage of the NFL anywhere, go to Pro Football Weekly and ProFootballWeekly.com. Mike, thanks for coming on.
Ken, Ed, my pleasure. Anytime you guys need me, give me a call.
Thanks. Well, heading across the parking lot at the old Ferris Farm from Memorial Stadium over to Assembly Hall, the Hoosiers continue to do their preseason workouts, their conditioning, their practices to begin the men's basketball season. And we had a chance to talk to Jordan Hulls earlier this week. Hulls is a guy that's really been pinpointed as a guy who's stepped up as being a leader. We talked to Derek Elston a couple weeks back, and he said that Hulls is yelling at players. During workouts, pushing guys, and Hulls made it clear that I'm not the only guy that's yelling out there. Everybody's kind of stepped up their game, and I just wanted to play you at a little clip about what Hulls had to say, just about kind of the sense of urgency that the entire team's feeling after the past couple of years of losing.
Time's going by fast, and like you said, I only have 2 more years left. We got to try to make the most out of that. So definitely being more vocal, being more of a leader. It was apparent to me in my freshman year, that it needed to happen, but even more so right now, we just need to get more wins and just have somebody out there hold each other accountable, and as long as a team collectively we do that, I think we'll be all right.
Now, Ed, what Hulls had to say, just about having that sense of urgency and wanting to get things online, I think it's interesting to just the idea that everybody wants to win games. Everybody wants to do it. But it really is. You can notice it when players get a little bit older, when they realize that their college career doesn't have 4 years left. It doesn't have 3 years left. There's only 2, and even 1 is when the guys really start to crank up the intensity. Just the fact that those guys, especially the Hulls' class, have gone through those 2 years of struggles, have felt a little bit of success, and will now want to take the next step. How much can that help everybody gel together a little bit more quickly?
Well, I think it's a big factor, particularly for Jordan Hulls, who didn't lose much in high school. He's a kid who won state championships. They had an undefeated season. They almost went 2 seasons without a loss. He just isn't used to losing, and you go from a high school career where it's all winning, and then you come to a college program, and you think there's going to be a little bit of a foundation, not a strong foundation. He was obviously part of the foundation with that class with Christian Watford, Maurice Creek, and all those guys. But certainly he's not used to losing, and even though he anticipated probably a little bit of losing, it still doesn't sit real well with him. You could tell that from his interview. He just is tired of losing. And I think a lot of the guys have built up that same mentality, and that's kind of led to the sense of urgency that you're speaking of. Because they know that if they don't get it done this year, they've only got one more shot, and they don't want to just, wait for that last shot. They want to get it done this year and then expand on it next year when they get the 2012 class, which is certainly going to bolster their talent pool. But there's no time like the present, and I think Jordan Hulls certainly realizes that. I think he always has to a certain degree. He just didn't necessarily have the guys around him who agreed with that philosophy. And now that there are, and they all started to realize that, hey, we've only got 2 years of college left. For some of these guys like Verdell Jones, Tom Pritchard, Matt Roth, Daniel Moore, there's only 1 year left. And I think that's the part of the equation that Jordan didn't mention much in that interview the other day. Was just that I think the juniors and the sophomores, they really want to win for the seniors this year. Tom Pritchard and Verdell Jones and Matt Roth and all those guys have been through probably the most turbulent time period in IU basketball history with the whole Kelvin Sampson ordeal, the probation, losing all these games. They haven't had a winning season in 3 years now.
Yeah.
So I think they'd really like to they'd really like to send those guys out with some kind of postseason tournament and a winning season. And I think they're that's the drive right now, is really to send those guys out winners, as much as it is for the juniors, who are certainly the real talent on this team is in the junior class. But I think it's a matter of those guys really wanting to send the guys who were there before them out winners, and I think that's going to motivate and drive everyone to a more successful season this year.
Well, I think it's important when you have guys that are playing with a purpose and for a goal. Because certainly the past couple of years, guys, players want to win games. I mean, there's no question about that. But when you go into the season and you think we have a real chance to make the NCAA tournament, make an NIT, some kind of postseason tournament, it gives you a chance to play. Now, to play for that. Before it was, okay, when Hulse and that group were freshmen, it was a matter of we have to learn how to play college basketball and kind of step up our game as the season goes on. Last year it was about, certainly they want to win games, they want to get to the next level, but it was still a thing of we want to continue to improve on the court. That's what the important thing is, improve on the court. And I just get a sense that this season, with 4 full classes underneath the roof under Tom Crean, that it isn't the improvement that is really the focus, and it as much as it was before, as it is, obviously they want to improve, but it's about winning and taking the lessons that they've learned and taking that forward. And like you said, that can end up rewarding those seniors in the long run.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. I mean, it's it's as much a mental thing as it is a physical thing. I mean, obviously I use lack talent the last several seasons to really compete at the top of the Big Ten, or for a spot in the top of the Big Ten. But now the mentality is there. The juniors and seniors are telling the younger guys how to work out, how to play Indiana basketball, Tom Crean Indiana basketball, and I think that's a big part of it. Tom Crean has said for ever since he got here, really a couple years now, that that you need your players to teach the younger guys. The older players need to teach the younger guys how to win, what's expected of them, how to play Indiana basketball. And I think that's finally starting to happen. And I don't think there's going to be the huge learning curve that we've seen in the last couple of years with these new guys coming in, and not necessarily the leadership from the players. I think there's a lot of leadership now, particularly from Jordan Hulse, for the players and for the younger classes. And I think that's going to really pay off come this season.
It'll be interesting. Certainly, it's an exciting time both for football and basketball. A lot of uncertainty. I mean, there's still a lot of questions they have to actually produce on the hardwood or on the gridiron, whichever they do. But it is an interesting time because there's a feeling that things have finally started to look up, and that success is within grasp, and that's something that hasn't really been part of the equation as much over the past couple of years. Certainly, we'll get a chance to see how much closer the football team has come when we get a chance to see them work out at a full practice tonight. And again, stay tuned to InsideIndiana.com for all the news and notes from that event. But for right now, that's all the time we have. For Ed Magoni, this is Ken Bikoff. Thanks for listening, and pace yourself.